Let's start the last panel of the day, robotics and mechanization for the global food system. So please come on stage, our moderator, Glenda Humiston from the University of California, Erik Pekkeriet from Wageningen University, Priscilla Kopke from F3 Innovates, and Didier Tison from Omnia, and Yossi Lehen from Israeli Intelligent Robotics Center. So the floor is yours. Stay in the room and enjoy this last panel of the day. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon. I know that we are between you and your evening events, so hopefully we will have some not just excellent content, but keep a little bit of a lively conversation going up here, and we will have an opportunity for a few questions near the end. But to move this along quickly, rather than me reintroduce the folks that were just introduced, I'm going to ask each of them to take about 3 or 4 minutes to really share with us what your organization is and what do you see as the key challenges facing robotics and mechanization for the global food system. And we'll just start right here.
Okay, thank you. So my name is Erik Pekkeriet. I work as a program manager on vision and robotics at Wageningen University and Research. So what we see as the actual challenge now, it's labor. It's labor on one hand, that we see also a lot of migrant populations running around to do things that we do not want to do. Also for the Netherlands, where we have 17 million people, 1.2 million are migrants. Half of them are agri-food related. So it's also a concern. It's not only a Dutch concern. I think we see it worldwide that we are moving around with this labor. So that's one. The other thing, what we see is that it's sustainability. And you also see the examples, the previous examples of half an hour ago, when they try to compare robotic operations with manual weeders. We don't have a lot of manual weeders. We use the sprayer. And the sprayer is 50 meters wide, runs 50 kilometers an hour. So that's your competition. So if you want to compete these kind of operations, you must go to, because they are manual labor cost driven. That's why they are bigger, faster, go to bigger fields, and that's also a hurdle we cannot bridge. And we need high levels of autonomy, as cheap as possible. Don't compact the soil, because that's what we also did while reducing labor cost. So, and that's the other thing. So I think in Europe we would like to, we prefer to make the third thing, so make it as a resilient way of growing crops. And which means that we can do multiple crops perhaps at the same time, and we can conserve our weeds in a much better way. And all those ideas with strip cropping, mixed cropping, pixel farming, and then also restore the soil. Don't cut the weeds completely with half of them, so that you have the deep-rooted weed that can suck some wet within. Nice ideas, but without robotics, we are nowhere. So I think that's the main driver for Wageningen, to really work on these issues and to make robotics scalable, affordable, modular. I will come back to that later.
Thank you.
Where technology is.
Hi, Gerda. Thank you firstly for the opportunity to speak here today. It's a great privilege. My name is Didier Tison. I'm representing Omnia Holdings from South Africa. Omnia Holdings is a diverse company with a strong presence in the mining industry, in the agricultural industry, in the chemical industry. And the Omnia Holdings agricultural division is very much engaged in securing food production and real good yields for Africa and beyond through their innovative solutions in terms of plant nutrition, in terms of precision farming, and also in terms of just the way they bring innovation to the table and create new systems in terms of application and so forth, and very much also in soil health, very much involved in soil health. So for us, we are very excited about robotics. We're very excited about the future. We can see, you know, because when we talk about farming, we're talking about science. And we have to enhance science as far as possible, as deep as possible, as strong as possible in all applications and our operations. When we talk about nutrition, nutrition is only as good as the application is. And so robotics, we really see an advantage in robotics. We've got major challenges. One of the challenges, of course, and I think it's for everyone, is the accessibility, but also, you know, the costs of entering into the market, which is completely surmountable. I do believe that we're not, in certain areas, we are in a time of evolution, but on certain crops, we are standing in front of a revolution. So I do see that. So also in Africa and Australia, I think climate is also a very big challenge for us. We are working in different conditions, and one size does not fit all in robotics. And so we know we'll have to collaborate with more detail, and we've really done very well with our case studies in 2023 and 2024 to prepare ourselves for the future. We see a very good 2025 in terms of the robotics and integrating that with artificial intelligence. Another one of our big challenges, of course, is our infrastructure in Africa and connectivity. But also that is surmountable, and we are working on solutions, and we are very confident on that. And then, of course, you know, just the gap in terms of knowledge and skills. There's very determined actions that we will need to take to really get stronger momentum in the development of, or I wouldn't say the development only, but the establishment of robotics and artificial intelligence in Africa.
Great, thank you. Thank you. Priscilla.
Thank you for having me. Good evening, everyone. My name is Priscilla Kepke. I am the CEO of F3 Innovate. And we are a nonprofit in Central Valley, California, that's really dedicated to transforming the region into a global hub for ag tech technology and innovation. And so, you know, we are kind of that linkage between research and our research institutions in our region, industry, growers, and investors, and really trying to help accelerate the commercialization of solutions and cutting-edge technologies that really will impact the agriculture space. I think it's interesting, right? We all represent different regions, but I think all the challenges that we see are going to be very similar. So in terms of just echoing some of that, I think scalability across different farm sizes is a big one that we see in terms of just not just differences of different solutions here at FIRA in Europe versus those that we see in California, but just the solutions that can work on small farms versus big farms. That's a big challenge that we see in terms of advancing robotics and mechanization in this space. Definitely the infrastructure and data capacity across different farms. I would say, you know, in the US, I think some of the numbers I've seen are only about 25% of farms have adequate broadband connectivity, and that's going to significantly impact the ability to really, you know, drive the adoption of these different solutions across the different farms, and certainly that impacts big farms versus small farms, so there's a growing disparity there. And then, you know, very much just tying to that, just the interoperability of these solutions with ongoing operations, and how do we build these solutions in a way that tries to streamline this, right? In terms of just not just the cost, but the training that's associated with that and the technical support that can be lacking. And so, again, big farmers have more capacity to manage some of these issues than small farmers. So those are some of the big things that we are definitely focused on, and probably along with everyone else here. So.
Great.
Good afternoon. Can you hear me? Good afternoon. Thank you for being invited. It's my first time in FIRA. My name is Yossi Lahad. I am from Israel. I represent here the Israeli Intelligent Robotics Center, which is non-for-profit organization aiming to utilize and expand the AI in robotics. We are in a turning point in the world. I've been in robotics for 30 years, and the change in the last 2-3 years is enormous, and the future is for us. We are dealing with a variety of applications: health, logistics, education, and civil engineering and agriculture. Agriculture is important because there are two items. One of them has been mentioned, the lack of workforce. The other one is there is not enough food in the world in one way, and there is a huge ratio of waste in the process of between growing to making it an audible item. So we believe that the academia, industry, and the governments have to work together in order to make AI robotics for agriculture much more robust, much more affordable, and much more common. The other hat we have here, we as in IIRC, the Israeli Center, we are member in few international organizations for robotics. 2 of them are in Asia. One of them is in Korea, GRC, and one of them in China, which is IARA. Both of them requested me in the last meetings to enhance the collaboration between the Western part of the world and the Asian. There are good reasons to do it, to transfer technology. The large market, much larger market, is in Asia, so this is an opportunity for people here, Europe and the US. And actually, we have talked with the FIRA management today and a few weeks ago, how to create a more collaboration, a stronger collaboration between all parties to make it a win-win situation. Thanks.
Thank you. I love that you brought up the need for the partnership between academia, the government, and the private sector. That was actually going to be my question, so I didn't pay him for that. I know that Wageningen, the Netherlands, that's been a key part of your philosophy for a long time. The F3 project in California is very much those three, and in fact, all three have members on the board of directors. But as we look at all the challenges you just laid out here, infrastructure, huge, including access to bandwidth and labor and workforce and interoperability and, you know, the scalability. How do you see those three partners working together? And maybe you've got a specific example to share with us, but because I don't think that happens in a lot of the world, and it doesn't happen in a lot of these projects where we're trying to facilitate this sector. So could you share with us your thoughts on how we might harness that kind of energy a little bit more? And maybe I'll start with Priscilla.
Yeah, sure. So I think what's exciting, so Glenda sits on my board, so she has a special purview into this question and how it impacts our region. But I think what's exciting about F3 is it's something really new and exciting, right? I mean, this has never been done in our region before, and this is just a big collaborative between the UC and different academic research partners, the state of California, the federal government, and many of the community and workforce organizations across the region. And I think everyone came together in sort of building this initiative and then creating this nonprofit and said, we need to do something to change the dynamic of what's happening to this industry in our region. And we need the power and the collaboration of everyone involved in that. And it's coming in a little bit later after this started has been such an incredible experience to see how everyone's bringing their brain power, finding out how can we utilize all of our different funding sources and really try to engage the growers, engage industry, and bring everyone to the table. And I think that's what we're trying to do with F3, right? I think many times I've heard that growers aren't at the table when we're discussing what's happening with these solutions. How do we change that and make sure that we're actually tackling the problems that they care about, and bringing that into research, bringing that into the institutions, and helping drive the connection between the two and drive the direction of where that research and where the solutioning and innovations need to go.
Great, thank you. And Eric, our organization, University of California, the Netherlands, have had a partnership for several years on a variety of tech-related projects. And from my visits there and our conversations, I know that this is really the heart and soul of how the Netherlands views these type of projects. Maybe give us just a little bit more of your view on how you've been successful with this.
Yeah, I think we have a very special way of work. So it's Wageningen University and Research, which are two different legal entities. So you have the university, the low TRL research 1 to 4. The PhDs, the professors, there's some engagement from the industry, but when it comes too much, it transfers to Wageningen Research. So they are similar in size. So we have on both sides more or less 4,000 employees, so 8,000 in total. Also, the turnover is quite the same, but the culture is completely different. So we run projects on Wageningen Research, and the university is doing PhD work. Must be a little bit careful that it's not too fundamental. They should also apply. So that's why we collaborate a lot with each other. We share facilities, we share talks. So we have lunch meetings together, so on the topic level. And at the research level, we have also a few very nice instruments. So for example, my program, now we are a little bit more lucky, but we had a few years that we had only 2% direct governmental money. And 98% need to come from other sources. Luckily, we have Europe here, 20%. And the other half was half business to business, and the other half was also the public-private partnerships. And that's, I think, also a unique instrument we have in the Netherlands. So if a company pay 50% to Wageningen, the Dutch government adds it as well. And the 50% should come with 25% in kind and 25% in cash to Wageningen. So that's a very nice instrument. When we started this, it immediately gave more turnover to Wageningen instead of less. So because we were 100% funded, there was not so much money. So try to get more out of the industry, and it worked very well. So we increased quite a number in budget, especially in my theme, where the business cases are quite clear. So I think these kind of instruments work, but now we also need the high tech. So that's a new player in the robotics. So we try to collaborate more and more also with the industrial players that can make those scalable modular building blocks that are already present in automotive, and how do we get these scaled to agriculture? So that's the new challenge we are running now at the moment.
Yeah, I think really the challenge for this is for all of us to find how to really gather up the strengths of the different partners. And it's always challenging, and it's ever changing. Didi, I believe you come from more the private sector angle on this. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, for us, for us it must make business sense from the start. So what we've done the last 2 years is really doing case studies, really going through rigorous tests with the robots we chose to advance in our projects in terms of building onto our precision farming platform and creating our robotic and artificial intelligence division. What we've done is, now there's not much funding in South Africa. It does look a bit different in terms of that, but we do work closely with universities and so forth around the world, not only in South Africa. But it's all about creating the environment in which the farmer finds himself. We work in the agricultural industry. I myself has been with Omnia now for 30 years. The relationship we've got with farmers is a relationship of trust. You've built a reputation with them over many, many years. And we're not just working with technology, we're working with people that need to understand the technology, and they need to understand that they've got the support to take them right to the end. And so that's the culture we've cultivated in the farming industry in our domain. So we work very closely with agronomists. We've got agronomists in our team. It doesn't help you've got the hospital, but you don't have the doctors. So it's you need to have a close collaboration with agronomists that work very closely to the farmer, that can sell the same scientifically proven methods which you have, or which you have tested and which you are introducing to the market, that will optimize yields and cut costs, because that's at the end of the day, everyone wants to advance, in terms of the operations. But just coming into the market, it's one of the biggest challenges today is, how do I get into the market in terms of affordability? And, how do I gain access to the market? I think in terms of that, we first have to decide on which clients are we going to engage with. And the clients, when you really, because at the end, we sell a solution. We don't sell a robot. And what we've seen is when we integrate certain artificial intelligence systems on a certain platform, which is a multitask robot, we really got a very wide open field. And we've done certain case studies this year and past year where we had phenomenal results, where we had savings up to 70%, and we had immense growth in yields with robotics and artificial intelligence. So if you can put that on the table and talk to a farmer that's got the means to get into the robotic field, get into this system which we want to establish as a business, because it makes business sense. And then you're starting to talk about, listen, it doesn't cost that much money, because there's results. That's why I'm saying on certain crops, there's a revolution that's awaiting us. It's not an evolution. On other crops, there's still an evolution. On bigger crops, on bigger fields, and so forth. So collaboration between you yourself, between your technicians, between the people, the marketing personnel, the agronomists, and university is essential, very essential. But at the end of the day, that must be felt on the farm with the client.
Yeah, I completely agree. Yoshi, you're the one that brought up the importance of the partnership. If you've got an additional thought on that, great. But actually, the next question I'd like to hear from you all on is really related to the data. Because as we're talking artificial intelligence, we're talking use of robotics, we're talking how it actually delivers a solution. Data is critical, and one of the issues that comes up is who owns that data? Is it the farmer? Is it the person that's got the equipment on the robots? Is it the company that's getting managing the data movement? Who owns that data and how it gets used? And how do we ensure that we're still maintaining a certain amount of open data, like for research and for public value, and yet giving private companies the ability to maintain a certain amount of intellectual property too? It's a balancing act that's real. I think we're at a stage where it's really critical that we figure out how to manage that well. Yoshi?
The data, as you mentioned, is crucial. It's a complicated question, because if you don't allow the company to have data from different sources, from many customers, so the product they have, the service they have, will not be as good as it could be if they have multiple sources of data. So this is a no-brainer that the data should be used by the company. The question is, who will make money from that? Would they pay something to the government, to the sources of data? And this is probably the key question. In Asia, probably it's important because the government will not give you this data, And so it is an issue which need to be in scrutiny, look at details. And one of the things is to collaborate also here between the parties like F3 or others and try to come with some kind of normal procedures which are not available today.
Great. Priscilla?
So agree, a complicated question, right? So I spent some time working in the cybersecurity industry before this new role. And so this is obviously a big question, just security questions in general. And I think every industry has faced this issue of how do we handle data, who owns data, how do we control data. So I think when we look at ag and what we're seeing in terms of the adoption of technologies, and we're very early, right? In terms of robotics and the automation and AI, I often say it's like we're just starting the new ag revolution, and we're right at the beginning of that. And so security and the way data has been managed hasn't been something really people have thought a lot about, but if you survey farmers, the majority of them are very concerned about it. And so I guess we have to think about it from a couple angles. There's the data governance aspect of how do we just govern and control this data and make sure that certain aspects of data is anonymized, right? Things that are very sensitive to the growers that can't be shared. And sometimes we can classify that as potentially like information around that's being gathered from the different sensors used to do higher level analytics, right? Predictions, yield estimates, things like that. I mean, that's going to be very sensitive information that no grower is going to want to share. But then there's aspects around just being open and transparent about that, and how can we anonymize data to still allow it to be used for research and partnerships with academia or the actual companies themselves. So I think those are some big issues to work through. But as I've seen in every industry, just having come from the security side and spent some time there, it's important for us to think about that now, because I've always said, try to build those thoughts and those policies and procedures in the beginning and have those conversations early, so you address that out in the open, and so that you can build that into your solution over time, so that you're ready to handle things as they get more complicated, which they will get much more complicated.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Didi, it sounds like you're really talking about larger farms from some of the comments you just made a little bit ago. As we look about the differences between robots serving larger farms versus a lot of interest in robots for smaller farms, some of these data questions are going to really be huge. What are your thoughts on that, as well as just the data management?
Well, I think, if we talk about data, well, that's going to be a topic that's very sensitive for the for the future. And also, we don't try and find solutions without data. We build our whole concept on data. We built the projections on our data and all our applications in our operations on data. But we work on both big farms and small farms. And in terms of data, it depends on the farmer, and their personalities as well. Who's going to own the data? Who are we allowed to share the data with? Well, that's why it's for us very important to close the farmer in a very strong circle of trust, where we've got our agronomist, where people can really, you can have the information, but if you don't really have the ability with a person that also lives in that region, that understands the climate, that understands the area in terms of the soil types and all of that, and has not really grown and walked with this farmer for many years, it's difficult to navigate through all these things. Mm-hmm. So it's really important to, if you work with data, whether it's a small farm, whether it's a big farm, it's all about building this trust between you and the farmer, encircling him with people that's got the right answers for him, and who he's built trust over the years, and then really making sure that you're producing the results, So for us, data, it's a very sensitive issue especially in South Africa, because our whole model, and some of these farmers, you know, we've known them, me personally, I've been working for them for 30 years. You sit with a mountain of data that helps you so much, and we take data on every level, from soil, from leaf, from the yields, from every kind of data you can think about, and we build on top of that data. So, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
Yes, well, we live in Europe, so I live in Europe. So you cannot own data, but you can handle data from others that provide data. So if you provide data, you can always pull it back, so that you cannot. So it's not allowed to have a vendor lock-in. We have the EU Data Act and the AI Act, all these kind of regulations on Europe. That also helps. It also helps to leverage the power to the ones that deliver the data, and you can switch on and switch off, which is even law. But how do you organize it? Because it all sounds very nice, but to be honest, there's a huge power in data, and yeah, how do you secure that? On one hand, I think also data brought a lot of opportunities to farmers. I mean, it brought farmers also way closer to the consumers, and now if you look really careful, so where the food is produced is at the farm, and in some cases when it's eaten, it's on the consumer, and everything in between is more or less data and some logistics. But even that can be controlled more and more. So it also gives, if farmers are doing it very well, they can also really get the power towards them. And there's a few other things are happening, which can also help the browser. So the data density and data frequency is getting so high that you cannot always put everything in one cloud. So it is somewhere in the cloud, but there's also decentralization of data that should be handled by the farm. And so I think we are not there, but we are moving towards that direction, that the farmer will be more aware, what is his data, how do I open it up to, who is using my data, who should I give access to my data, because he also should give access of data to others, because he gets something back. Mm-hmm. But that should be in balance. He should also, and that role is still starting. So, but I think for the future, I'm not so worried. I think it can definitely also gather some power back to the farmer. It can be directly at the consumer.
So I think this question about data, I brought it up on purpose because it is a current issue. It's something we've got to start looking at, and it's extremely complex and challenging. But you know, all the other issues you brought up when we first started this are equally so. Labor, workforce, infrastructure, interoperability, all of them. You each brought up some really tough challenges. I'd love to hear from each of you your thought on how we're going to overcome that challenge you brought up. What's a very positive vision you've got going into the future on how we're going to deal with one of the challenges you brought up?
Well, I think when we are able to really robotize our food production, we can scale much easier where the consumption is. We can control it from everywhere in the world. We should also, my concern is that we are still shifting boxes of robots. We should shift services. So don't only shift the box of the robots and with some course and that's it. No. I think also the whole remote service you will provide and really unburden the farmer. That's what a lot of robotic companies should learn still. I think the robotic supplier should phone the farmer when there is an issue, and you should be remote aware of what is happening there. And then you are really giving a fly to robotics. So there. Most of the struggles of the robotics is that they leave the controls to the farmer, and he is limited, educated, equipped. It's not user-friendly, and they expect that they don't have to do it and that the farmer should take over. No, that's not how it works, guys. So I think from that perspective, you should really control all your fleet remotely as a robotic supply. So it's way more a service than delivering hardware. And I think that's some change, perhaps.
I couldn't agree more. And Priscilla, I know that the F3 project includes a strong component around workforce and training, working with a lot of community colleges and non-NGOs. Well, you brought up interoperability, which in a sense is some of this. It's not just the equipment being interoperable, it's the operators, the labor, the farmers, et cetera. What are your thoughts on where we might go to solve some of those and get that big vision?
Yeah. So I think one of the things, as I approach sort of the strategy for F3 Innovate and what do we need to do, a big component of not just let's commercialize new solutions, right? Let's find these things, let's try to increase the adoption of it, but we need the talent that can do that. So it's, for us, we're looking at that segment of kindergarten through graduate level, the youth, and looking at the future and how do we prepare the industry for the future. It's part of that's inspiring the next generation to go into ag tech. We talk about labor shortages, and it's not just people working, on the farms, but it's also the talent that's going to run these ag tech companies, and that's going to be able to train the growers and their teams on how to do these things, to service the different solutions that are out there in the market. And so for us, it's investing in that talent, trying to inspire, trying to teach them about agriculture, trying to teach them about the technology and the integration of all of that together. And then it's building internships, fellowships, apprenticeship opportunities for the older youth, so that they can get that hands-on experience, and so that they can go into the workforce and be really effective on day one. And I think that built into just the work around the research and bringing everyone together and creating new solutions and the partnerships and all of that really reinforces the whole picture. And so you can't have one without the other.
Absolutely. Yoshi.
I think the situation we are going to face is that necessity, lack of food, lack of workforce will create innovation and creativity. So I'm not worried about that. The issue is how fast the industry and academia in the same cluster, will be able to bring something which is affordable, which we are not there yet, is easy to use, we are not there yet in many things, because there are many needs. For example, spraying is dangerous, dirty, so people want to get rid of that, but we don't have a solution to that. I didn't see even one spraying company here that in the first day, maybe there are, and I know that in other places this is something that people don't touch. So this is the issue of the industry. Industry means the academia and the commercial side. So one of the solutions that I believe is strong, that specifically small, medium enterprises cannot afford robotics today and probably not in the next 10 years. So one of the solutions, beside of government support and subsidy, is robotic as a service. You don't buy the equipment, you don't have to maintain it, you don't have to operate it. You buy a service. Instead of having workers, you have somebody who provides the solution. Some of the companies in Israel are doing it. One of them in fruit picking. They already have 30 fruits they can pick very safely using data from many countries. So I don't think the data is the issue here. And somebody who can operate them around the world. So this is, again, collaboration. They cannot work in the US, in South Africa, and Europe at the same time. They need partners. So we are coming back to the partnership thing. So bringing better products, robotics as a service, and partnership.
Great, thank you. Didi, you brought up infrastructure as one of the big challenges you saw. So I'd be interested in hearing from you where you see some solutions potentially going for that. But before you start, if there is anyone in the audience that has a question that you'd like to ask the panel, if you could come near the front so I can hand you a mic, that would be great. I'll open it up to a couple of questions from the audience after this answer.
So in terms of infrastructure and also connectivity, in terms of robotics, typically in South Africa, you've got a farmer that's got maybe 2,000 hectares where he lives and where he's got all his infrastructure in place, and where he's got his solar panels and where he's very much independent. But then another 50 kilometers away, he's got another farm where he's also farming another 1,000 hectares where there's no electricity, where there's no connectivity. And so now you have to move your robots from where you are, where you've got all the infrastructure to recharge the batteries or wherever, whatever your operations are. So we have to look at that, but we've got scalable solutions for that as well. And then, of course, our roads in Africa is not the same as in Europe, especially in the northern part of the South Africa. And there's, okay, those things are things that we need to bring in consideration in terms of which market we're penetrating and the problem we want to solve. And but coming back again in affordability and accessibility for farmers, I believe, you know, it depends on from which angle you enter into the market. Small-scale farmers has got we need government help. We need help from private sectors to get these people engaged and get them on board in terms of robotics that can change their lives. But for us, firstly now we need to focus on the high-end farmers. That's got really big operations in terms of vegetables. That's what we're focusing on, and we've really focused on literally two crops to make a difference and to make a business case and to really put the numbers together. And so we've seen through efficiency, we've seen through the enhancement of artificial intelligence and having a multitask robot that's able to do certain tasks, multiple tasks, well, that's more precise and more effective, that we had major results. And so when you put those numbers together, it's not that expensive. So that's why I'm saying, on the one side, there's already much work that's been done in certain conditions for us, but we've got this fortunate situation in our company where we basically do everything under one umbrella. Mm-hmm. We collect the data, we analyze the data, we've got our own laboratory, we've got our own agronomists. That's why I said early on, you know, you can have an hospital, but if you don't have the doctors, that hospital doesn't. If you don't have the services, you can have the best X-ray machines, you can have the best product, but if you don't have the doctors on board that can really do a good and an accurate diagnosis of what the problem is and really targeting those obstacles, those problems that's standing in the way for greater yields, that can optimize everything on your farm, well, most what you are looking at on your farm, you really bring significant transformation and change. So the other stuff like infrastructure, I mean, that's a one-on-one, you know, per case. And again, everything must be done in a scalable way, incremental. And that's the way we will really be able to establish robotics. In the market, I believe, and I'm also talking from our point of view, from where we are in South Africa and also our challenges. But we are very ripe in terms of South Africa to enhance electrical robots on farms. We've got, most of our farmers has become independent with their own solar panels and generating their own power because government cannot produce electricity. So big farmers has become completely independent, and it makes it so ripe for robotics to enter and to bring a significant contribution on the farm.
Yeah. I agree. As we're wrapping this up, and I'm not seeing any questions coming up, so I'll keep asking questions. We've got a few more minutes. I really would love to hear, and this is almost your closing remarks, so feel free to finish up with another thought if you've got. As we move forward to try to facilitate better and more and cost-effective use of robotics, where do you see the specific things we need to be investing in and doing. I mean, I would say like events like this, FIRA, where people are able to showcase new robots, new technology is critical. The research angle, obviously, I mean, that's something we work on. But we try to partner with a lot of people on that too, the whole workforce, all of it. But if you could just pick something that in the next 6 or 9 months, you really would like to see happen to facilitate robotics taking off in the global food system, what would that be? What would that be? Somebody want to leap out here? I'm putting you on the spot. Yeah.
Yeah, well, in 1 year?
Well, yeah, why not?
So
We've got a lot of
that's
stuff
really
going on
challenging.
already.
So the things where things are not going very well is that our R&D processes are way too slow. So how can we speed up? So I have high hopes of the synthetic data, and we should also make those plants physical, and we should also share those assets to each other. Then we can really train year-round and also do the harvest. So on that level, I would like to see some things. So that's one. I also would like to see a better servitization in the remote and teleoperated systems. That we always do one-offs, and we do this and you do that. So we don't share modules. So how can we come to scalable, affordable, extremely robust, convenient modules which everyone can use, so that you can use it in we make too much one-offs and they are way too expensive. So if we would like to come to affordable, we should really smash prices down, and automotive can do that. We should be the next one. So I think those are at least two. So remote, modular, fastest R&D, I think those are really challenges what we should pick up rapidly.
Yeah, I agree. I will offer one thing we're doing, not just as part of F3, but elsewhere, is I've actually put some of my academics in the field working directly with small and medium-scale farmers to develop some of this technology. Because there's nothing like working hand in glove with the farmers to try to quickly bring that to fruition. And I imagine some of the rest of you have got similar things going on. Who'd like to go next?
I think also extracting the simplicity out of the complexity, you know. I think that's a very important, because we're working with people. You know, we're selling these technologies they're totally unfamiliar with. And that's why I'm saying, you know, it's a real trust issue to be able to do that. And so if we want to sell robots, we have to collaborate with a company or an institution that's already got a well-established relationship in the farming industry. Because the farming industry is a generational industry. It's relationships that's built over years. So that's something very important to remind oneself. But the simplicity out of complexity, make it as simple as possible. And I would also say, you know, in technology we've got a graph where you've got this line that's running, and it's, you know, it's like a flat line when there's a new innovation. I call it the innovation graph, and it's like a flat line until it hits the acceptance curve. But the moment it hits the acceptance curve, it just goes up and up and up and up. And I believe robotics is literally on that spot where it needs to go up. I'm not saying in general. I'm talking about on specific crops with specific, there needs to be niches created to help those crops, to help those farmers with those crops to get to the highest optimum zone which they are envisaging, you know, which they are looking at. So, but again, just bringing back, so I want to say to investors, don't stop investing in robotics and research and development. You know, I believe we are standing literally on a breakthrough where we're going to see major results on certain crops that will spark the revolution.
There you go.
If I can say that. So again, but simplicity out of complexity. And we've worked very closely with NIO. We've imported some of their robots, and we've done a lot of work with them. And we're very, you know, excited about the work we've done. But but again, you know, we bring everything back. Remember, we're working with people that's never been exposed to this.
Yeah.
Make it simple. That's it.
Great, thank you. Priscilla.
Yeah. So I think to your comment, Glenda, about just getting more researchers embedded, I'll take that a step further and just say innovators in general, and making sure that they're engaging with the customer, with the grower earlier and more often, regularly. It needs to happen so much more than it is. And so I guess if I look at it from a 6-9 month period, it's what can we do at F3 Innovate to drive that like just into the minds of the innovators that they need to do this early. And at the other side of it, it's getting more growers at the table and willing to be a part of those discussions and to be involved in the R&D and help design and build the requirements for these solutions rather than sitting on the bench and waiting to see what happens and then being like, well, this doesn't solve my problem, I don't like it. Well, come earlier, we want you there. And I think the other thing that, you know, vision short term is when we look at the industry, investment is decreasing, and it's finding new ways, new vehicles for investing and helping support these startups and get the momentum and the capital they need to keep growing so they can keep developing and really developing solutions that are going to solve these really incredible problems. And I think that's a big challenge is trying to fill that gap, and it's something we're working on, so we'll see what happens.
Great, thank you. Yoshi.
I don't think in 9 months we can make a real change, if you want to be honest. Robotics takes time, it takes money which is not available. What have been said here, and specifically and Priscilla about the collaboration with users is important, but I believe the challenge is on us. We need to bring something which is affordable to show that the ROI is not 3-5 years, but less than a year. If we can do it, and today I don't think we can really do it, but it could be in 2-3 years, then the necessity which we talked about will make it the turning point that was mentioned here. We are in a turning point. When it will happen, a year from now, or 2 years from now, or 3, I don't know, but the challenge is make it affordable.
No, I think you're absolutely correct. I think all of those are exactly what we need to do. And yes, I was putting the pressure on in 9 months, but the reality is if we are shooting at a shorter time frame, then maybe we'll get it done in 2 or 3 instead of 4 or 5. Because that's what happens all too often, is that we sometimes don't feel the urgency because other things are coming up, and then we have to go chasing the investors, we have to get the R&D done, we got to get the contracts done. It gets very challenging.
Pregnancy takes 9 months, so you cannot change the physics.
That's right, that's right. Well, I'm going to call us quits at the moment because I know we're out of time, and I want to really ask everybody to please give a hand to this panel. I think it's been a fascinating conversation. And thank you for joining us today. This is part of FIRA, and we're really thrilled to be able to bring these type of speakers and this type of content to you. So thank you.
The FIRA 2024 has exceeded my expectations. We've seen growers, researchers, students, and teachers from all around the world. It's really good to see what they're doing, what they're progressing, and how we can connect with different people here. Every corner I turn, there's something cool and new. It's impressive to see all the people, the robots you have.
One of the greatest things for autonomy at this show is engaging directly with growers, directly with OEM manufacturers.
FIRA is fantastic. This has quickly become the show to be at.
FIRA has done a great job of opening the doors by combining all the technologies that are available in our space that we're aware of.
There didn't seem to be any better event to be a part of than FIRA.
for the focus of F3 Innovate.
The next generation of talent and tools is really going to make a big difference, and I'm excited for what the next 20 years will have in store for California agriculture.
The future is now. FIRA is amazing. FIRA is the place to see where future is actually happening.